The courtroom fell silent. The judge leaned forward, staring down at the woman standing before him. His voice was cold. "Miss Bondi, you are in contempt of court. I'm fining you $10,000. Gasps echoed through the room. Pam Bondi didn't flinch. She simply smirked. The judge thought he had won. He thought he had just put a lawyer in her place. What he didn't know was that he had just made the biggest mistake of his career, because Pam Bondi wasn't just any lawyer. She was a legal genius, and in a matter of minutes she was about to turn the entire courtroom upside down. Pam Bondi stood tall, her hands clasped in front of her, her expression unreadable. The judge thought he had won. The reporters in the back scribbled furiously. The people watching from the gallery leaned forward, waiting to see how she would react. But she didn't react. Not yet. To them, she was just another lawyer, a former prosecutor with a reputation for being tough. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. Pam had spent years in the courtroom. She had faced ruthless criminals, corrupt officials, and legal battles that made ordinary lawyers crumble. She knew every loophole, every flaw, every unspoken rule in the book. And right now, as she stood before this judge, she knew one thing for sure. He had just walked into her trap. Pam took a slow breath, her eyes locked on the judge. The weight of the fine didn't bother her. What bothered her was the arrogance behind it. She had seen this type before. Judges who thought they were untouchable, who thought their word was the final law. But Pam knew something most people didn't. A courtroom wasn't just about justice. It was about strategy. She glanced around. The gallery was packed. Lawyers, journalists, and curious onlookers waited for her reaction. She could hear the whispers. "She's finished. That's a big fine. Even for her. She should just apologize and take the loss." Pam almost laughed. Apologize, take the loss. They didn't understand. She looked back at the judge, then did something no one expected. She smiled. A small, knowing smile that sent a ripple of unease through the room. The judge's confidence faltered for just a second. Pam finally spoke. Her voice was calm, controlled. "Your Honor, you just made a legal error." The judge blinked. A few reporters raised their pens, sensing something big was about to happen. "You fined me for contempt of court," she continued, tilting her head. "But before you issued that fine, you failed to follow due process." The judge frowned. "I don't need to." Pam held up a hand. "Let me finish." She took a step forward, her voice steady. "According to the legal precedent set in Chambers v. NASCO, contempt fines must meet specific legal standards. You, Your Honor, did not follow those standards." Murmurs filled the room. The judge's jaw tightened. Pam continued. "You didn't allow me to respond. You didn't give me a chance to defend myself. And you certainly didn't establish how my actions met the necessary legal threshold for contempt." She took another step closer. "In other words, Your Honor, this fine is illegal." The entire courtroom froze. The judge's face turned red. His grip tightened on his gavel. He had never been challenged like this before. "Pam wasn't done. And if you enforce it, I'll have no choice but to file a judicial complaint. The fine will be overturned. And then, well, let's just say the last thing any judge wants is an appeal that questions their ability to follow the law." Silence. A long, uncomfortable silence. The judge knew she was right. If she appealed, the fine wouldn't just be removed. It would humiliate him. Pam waited. 1 second. 2 seconds. Then the judge sighed. "The fine is withdrawn," he muttered. Court dismissed. Pam didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She had already won. As she turned to leave, the whispers turned into shouts. Did she just outmaneuver a judge? That was insane. She knew the law better than the judge himself. Pam walked past the crowd, unfazed. For her, this was just another day. But for everyone who had just witnessed it, it was a moment they would never forget. Pam stepped outside the courtroom, the weight of dozens of eyes still on her. Reporters scrambled to get their microphones in her face. "Miss Bondi,
Did you know the judge would back down? Was this your plan all along?
are you going to file a complaint against him?" She ignored them. She had no interest in feeding the media frenzy. But just as she reached the courthouse steps, a voice stopped her. "Pam." She turned. Standing there was a man in a dark suit, arms crossed. His expression was unreadable, but Pam knew exactly who he was. The courtroom wasn't the real battleground. This man,
He was the real fight.
he was one of the most influential legal power players in the country.
A fixer.
Someone who worked in the shadows, pulling strings behind the scenes. And the way he was looking at her right now, it wasn't with admiration, it was with calculation. That was impressive, he said, stepping closer. But you do realize what you just did, don't you? Pam didn't blink. I did what was right.
He
Smirked. Maybe. Or maybe you just made yourself a very powerful enemy. She didn't respond. She didn't need to, because deep down she already knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Pam watched as the man in the dark suit took a step closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. You embarrassed a federal judge today, he said. That kind of thing doesn't just go away. She didn't flinch. If he wants to come after me, he can try, she said calmly. But tell him this, next time I won't just embarrass him, I'll expose him.
The man chuckled,
shaking his head. You're playing a dangerous game, Pam. She met his gaze unshaken. No, she said. I'm winning it. The man held her stare for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away.
Pam stood there,
watching him disappear into the crowd. Then, from the corner of her eye, she spotted something. Across the street, parked in the shadows, was a black car. The engine was running, tinted windows, watching, waiting. Pam's jaw tightened. This wasn't just about a fine anymore. This was bigger, much bigger, and something told her the fight had only just begun.
What do you think will happen next?
Will Pam uncover something even bigger? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you don't want to miss what happens next, subscribe now. You won't believe what's coming next.